Hi, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Bar. We are here with Dan Morgan at Morgan & Morgan. Please, Dan, thank you so much for joining me, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hold on, I just had my nephew walking. William, can you get out, please?
This is the beauty of it, though. This is how it is. We're all doing this from home. This is quarantine.
Yeah, I've been staying out here with my brother and his family. It's a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So,
Oh,
like,
yeah. You might hear my dog barking in the back. Yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself, Dan.
I'm obviously a trial attorney. I'm in my 6th year now of actually practicing law. Grew up in Orlando, Florida. Went to Stetson Law, UF undergrad in Gainesville. I'm a I manage what's called a PATA here at Morgan & Morgan. So my active caseload right now is probably somewhere around 300 PI cases, and obviously with the courts being closed and everything else, there's been a lot of headaches going along with managing everybody and expectations and all that type of stuff. And then I also have a sports agency. It's a kind of a boutique one that I started 3 years ago now, Morgan Sports Group. So I've been balancing that as well. And a lot of headaches have been coming with that, with the NBA. Well, now it's back open, but the drafts have been delayed. College seasons are looking like they're getting pushed. So there's been a lot of headaches with that as well. But just trying to kind of manage everything, the crisis, and just keep things moving forward. But so far, so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did see that you have a picture with Mark Cuban, and you had told me before we got on here some cool things about you and Mark and how you know him personally and worked for him. So tell us a little bit about that, Dan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I met Mark it was a political fundraiser. I think it was Obama back in 2012 when Orlando All-Star was in town, and he was there at the party and kind of very cool and nice guy, and came up to me and asked what my plans were after, if I was going out or anything. There was a birthday party going to the downtown, and he asked if he could tag along with me. And of course, you don't say no when you have that opportunity. So we went out that night. We had a good time. That was my first year of law school. He ended up offering me a job to be his legal intern for that summer. So a lot of the Shark Tank deals that were coming in, I was kind of providing some legal research and patent and copyright, that type of stuff for him. So it was fun. I did a Vegas trip with him. I stayed a lot of time in Dallas, LA, kind of just being his kind of his do boy. But it was definitely a good job, and one of the best summers I probably had throughout my academic career. But yeah, it was a really good time, and we still stay up close. He helps me. I have a player, Chad Brown, who's on the Texas Legends G League team. That's the Dallas Maverick affiliate. So Mark helped me get that placement for him, and he's been very supportive with all my sports. So it's definitely a great relationship.
That's awesome. So going into this, I was talking a little bit with Elizabeth, my boss, of Momentum, of how exactly you are in the hierarchy of Morgan & Morgan. Are you the youngest? Are you the middle child? Like, tell me a little bit about that dynamic. That's one. And then two, how is the sibling rivalry? Was there any sibling rivalry there?
So I am the baby of four, all 2 years apart. So Mike's the oldest. Matt is after him. And then my sister Katie, she's the only non-lawyer in the family, but she kind of has some ancillary companies, and she also has a women's boutique down here in Winter Park, Florida. So yeah,
What's the name?
it's called Violet Clover.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, so she's having a good time, and then I'm the youngest, obviously. Growing up, not too much rivalry. Obviously, probably between like 4th grade and 10th grade, obviously scuffles and things like that. But for the most part, we've always got along great. We all went to UF. My first year was Mike's last year in law school there, so we've all kind of I've always kind of been around, same high schools, same elementary schools, things like that. So definitely being the youngest had its perks, where teachers and everyone else already had 6 years priors of other Morgans coming through, and then I would come in the class and be, oh no, not another one. But yeah, I mean, as far as then at the firm, Matt, my second oldest brother, he's kind of does operations for the whole firm now. He's kind of stepped out of the role of, he still has a load of trial cases and things like that, or of litigation cases, but he's kind of more big picture stuff. I'm still kind of doing, like I said, kind of day to day actually working the caseload and things like that. And then Mike is head of our mass tort division, and he also handles product liability for the firm. So we all kind of have our own roles right now. I'm still, I got there every position at Morgan & Morgan. When I was in high school, I was in the call center. I was an investigator, actually going on the road and signing up cases after they call in. I was a case manager. I was a paralegal. I worked in the mailroom. So I think that's been helpful in my career, just to know every, from A to Z of what kind of goes on at the firm. So it's definitely been a benefit.
Well, every aspect. And the cool thing is too, when I talk to people at your firm, they're like, we love Dan. Dan is the coolest. Like Ravin was like, and he's like a case manager, all the way from the case manager to the people that are runners and
Yeah,
running, they know you. And so that's kind of going into my next question of the book that your dad wrote. And I want to know if you have read it or not, but You Can't Teach Hungry.
Yeah.
Did you read?
Definitely read it multiple times. He also has another one called You Can't Teach Vision, which is kind of the one that came after that too, which is another good one. And it kind of goes, you have like an innate, like some people are satiable, some people aren't. You can't kind of teach the hunger of keep going, keep growing. He definitely tried to teach us hunger, and I think he was successful, even though he doesn't want to admit it. But growing up, it was always, we always had a job. My first job was when I was 14 years old in a candy shop. Then I worked in a pizza restaurant. Like the rule was, if you didn't have a job, you weren't able to go out on the weekends. You weren't able to do that. I worked at a Boston Market. I worked at a Firehouse Subs. So and we come home from college during the summer. If you weren't taking summer classes, you were getting a job. There's no like allowances or anything like that. Or, he was good enough where, we got cars and stuff like that when we turned 16, where he helped us out with all that type of stuff. And for the most part, very, very strict when it came to that type of stuff. So definitely kind of instilled that work ethic, like I said, in the call center and all that type of stuff. If you wanted money in your pocket, you had to go out and get it. And if you didn't, that's fine, but you're just staying home and doing your own thing there. So, but yeah,
Exactly. So it was almost like a pyramid that he was discussing in Revolving the Players. You have your A player, B player, C player. Can you go into that a little bit, or do you remember that part of the book? Because I was really intrigued. I know a lot of other lawyers that are running a business really had asked me to ask you that question in particular, of like, if you could go into detail of that one.
Yeah, for sure. And that's not, he obviously does it on the big picture for lawyers, but he also has each individual lawyer, like I said, talked about the pod earlier, but it's kind of, a structure where underneath me, I have, case managers and paralegals and things like that, where we actually have to go and rate them as well, A, B, C. And there's even like B pluses, which means, they're a solid B now and they can get to a B, or they're, just a B overall, which means, which is great. The majority, I forget the actual breakdown, and he stole it from, I think it was the GE CEO back in the day, Jack Welch. But yeah, it's pretty much like, 10, there's like 10% of A's, and you got to kind of, those are the guys that if they start their own thing, or whatever, a devastation to the practice, everything else. So you keep it and retain that type of talent. The B's are hopefully the majority of your workers, which is solid. They go in, they get the job done. I'm not sure it's the book about send delete people, meaning you can send them an email and then delete it because it's going to be handled. Checking back in, hey, did you get this done? What's the status on that? He just knows that certain people you can do it over with. And then C's, obviously, there's different types of C's, just like B's, where they're either new or they got a promotion. They were assistant and now they're actually a case manager, or they're now so they're getting adjusted to it and they have the potential to keep growing, or they're just kind of, and then there's also D's, and you got to kind of trim and either and repurpose attorneys that were in roles at our firm. Attorney didn't kind of do good there, and you move them to a products or to a mass tort or to a different thing, and all of a sudden they start thriving. So it's kind of identifying your stud players and just put them in the right, he kind of puts it like a, basketball or football analogy, where maybe the guy's not a great quarterback, but if you put him at wide receiver, all of a sudden he's going to be leading the conference in touchdowns. So it's just kind of identifying those people and making sure you got to keep the A's, you got to keep growing the B's, and then trim the D's and C's.
I really like that.
Yeah, I'll customize myself right now probably a B plus, but not quite an A standard yet. The Morgan.
Not there yet. But you could, we could send you an email and delete it and make sure it'll get done, right?
Most times, every now and then, like it'll be like little stuff too. What's the status on this? Like, oh, it's like why am I sending you to check up on this? I'm sorry, I'm on it. But for the most part, I'm pretty.
Yeah, yeah. So knowing that having your sports agency and also being a partner at Morgan and Morgan, how do you juggle that? Is it really hard, or juggling the two? Like, what, give us some pointers of how you juggle it, maybe blocked out times, or what you're doing to really help you succeed.
Yeah, I mean, so right now it's been somewhat. I mean, a lot goes in kind of the recruiting aspect of it. So, my main focus is basketball. It's kind of that's the, I do other stuff too. I help out on different entertainment deals and just being eyeballs on contracts and things like that. But for the most part, it's basketball. So you kind of, Instagram's been a big tool to at least start, following these guys and kind of creating a relationship there. But then it really around, February through the end of March Madness, and obviously right after that is really kind of the go time. So I do try to either schedule things lighter on my calendar or be able to, it's been with the work from home and all that. Obviously, it's great. It's terrible what's going on, but it's definitely shown you the possibilities of you're able to move around and still kind of keep everything moving and progressing with Zoom. And had so many mediations via Zoom now and depositions where you look at all the time you're saving. And just drive time, with Morgan and Morgan, I'm based in Orlando, but we take cases from all of Central Florida. So some of my days, back, pre-COVID would be, waking up at 5:36 to drive an hour and a half to Melbourne for a 15-minute court hearing, to drive back an hour and a half to Orlando. And all of a sudden, you've shot probably 3 to 4 hours of your day just in drive time, where now you're able to be more efficient and productive. So the sports agency is kind of this. I'm trying to take that and I try to do it on my own for about a year and a half, and it was just too much. So I went and hired this kid, Adam Adebayo. His dad was a former WNBA and NBA coach with the Magic. So he's kind of plugged in. He's actually a lawyer too. He went to FSU Law, so he has his JD as well. So that's been helpful. And he kind of runs the day-to-day of it now. And I'm trying to kind of implement more of the big picture. But obviously for some of the signings and things like that, I'm still active. Right before this, I just got off a call with one of my new clients, Days Ingram, who played at UCF. We're trying to kind of plan out, because with the season just now starting, that means he's not going to probably start playing until December or February. And these kids are trying to it's a bad place to be right now. But for the most part, it's been easy because I have like 5 clients right now. But obviously, the goal is to keep growing, get bigger, better clients, where eventually I'll probably have to start figuring out what the best way to kind of delegate and where I'm going to kind of spend the majority of my time. Right now, I'd classify it more as of a hobby business, but I definitely want to make it more of a kind of a powerhouse business. And I think with the pipeline and things like that, hopefully in the next year to two, we should start kind of getting some momentum there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's very impressive. Is it just NBA, or are you doing all sports agency, or is it just specifically NBA driven?
So I've done, So I have I've done some golf stuff. Coming out, I was trying to do the NFL too, but you kind of find it when you get in this business, where it's kind of like law too, when you try to spread out and do everything. If you're trying to do everything, you can't be great at one thing, type of deal. If you look at the agents and what they do, I mean, there's some, like CAA is kind of like a powerhouse type firm that does everything, but the agents within CNA, he's either a basketball agent or a football agent. They don't do both. Ideally, big picture, I have another lawyer in our firm too, Evan Rosenberg, who he does football with another powerhouse firm and things like that. So, I mean, it would be good in the long run to try to do multiple sports and to kind of build it into like a CAA. That's obviously, you have your big, hairy, audacious goals, you call them. So that's obviously wanting to kind of do all sports and kind of have that. Right now, I'm just trying to get into basketball, make it profitable, and then hopefully go from there.
So let's say someone's listening in, because we're in Florida and I played college softball at St. Leo. A lot of my followers are going to be not only attorneys, some are also going to be really awesome athletes, in Florida, and you know how that works. So if they wanted to come and connect to you, what's the name of your company? So I just can market that for you, and like kind of how they would go about it. Or honestly, the name will speak for itself with their stats and so forth and be on your radar.
Yeah, I mean, it's Morgan Sports Group is the name of the company. The website's morgansports.group. My email for that, I have my For the People emails, dmorgan@forthepeople.com. But then I have Dan at morgansports.group as well. So, those are the best ways to to
reach out. So I want to know how we can get Mark Cuban on my Beyond the Bar.
I actually just helped. There's a shock jock down in Tampa named Bubba the Love Sponge. You might be familiar when they're not, but I just had to jump through hoops to get him on Bubba's show. But I did it. He's got some time on his hands right now with everything going on. I mean, obviously he's in full work mode, but he's not traveling. He's kind of been bunkered down at his house. So,
well, I mean, you can always pass along. Momentum is doing our own Shark Tank. I think I was telling you about earlier before we got on. We're doing our own, and we would love to have him. I mean, obviously, it would just be the best thing ever. But I mean, if you want, just as cool. What'd you say?
I'll pass it along for you.
Thank you, Dan. So, how are you doing with having all of this going on and generating business right now in a global pandemic? Has it been really rough now with COVID and generating business?
I mean, obviously, when it first hit, it was when, or at least personal injury, automobile accident cases, when there's stay-at-home orders and all that type of stuff. There's no cars on the road, so obviously case counts drop and things like that. But then there's other things that cases that I'm not really involved in. But as far as the mass torts and all those, we've seen kind of an uptick in those type of calls and signups and things like that. So it's kind of just focusing on the other avenues that we do have type of cases. Obviously, nursing homes, you're seeing they're being destroyed right now by kind of COVID related stuff. So we've definitely been kind of looking at those facilities and things like that to see if there's avenues of litigation or to hold them accountable if they've done something wrong or so it's definitely been tough. We've kind of stayed the course as far as marketing and that type of stuff with TV, radio. We just cut a bunch of new ads. So we're just trying to stay aggressive with it. But yeah, there's definitely, I think every business has kind of been hurt in some way or form by it. And, we're no exception.
Okay. Before we do the last call, which is a segment at the end, and we're called Beyond the Bar, last call at the bar. I don't know. I thought it was funny, but we'll do the last call after this. But I want to ask you one thing. I know a lot of people look up to you, especially young lawyers as myself. What would you tell young lawyers that are listening in what to do? What advice would you give them and that's helped you out?
I'd say, one is trying to find a mentor or, 3 or 4 really, to try to surround yourself with as much gray haired attorneys, guys that have been doing it for a long time. I've been grateful to, have a close relationship with Keith Mitnick, who, in my opinion, is probably the best trial attorney in America, where, you're actually being able to bring him problems and cases, bring him, what he's seen everything, or at least if he hasn't seen it, he has a different way he thinks about it where, so trying to surround yourself with people like that the best you can. Try and Kate, I've tried a dozen cases now or more. But being able to go in a courtroom with someone like him, there's another guy, Brian McLean, who's a whiz, to go in someone that's just done hundreds of cases, to see them firsthand do it. I mean, there's no real comparison. There's nothing in law school that can get you prepared, for a real life opening statement. You can do as many mock trials and stuff as you want, but when you're actually in a courtroom and there's a client sitting next to you and you're, doing voir dire or something, it's just, and then I'd also say, just kind of being understanding that most likely you don't know, the answer, just don't assume that, oh, well, that's what happened before. That's, to really kind of do the research. There's another attorney, Vinny DeSera, who's, been doing it for years and years. He's in the office. I'm lucky in my office. I have my brother Matt to my right and then Vinny's to my left. And I go to Vinny with a question or sometimes and he'll be like, well, did you read the rule yet? I'm like, no. He's like, well, get out of my office until you read it. And he's like, that's the best way you learn it is to actually, he's like, don't go look for the easy handout answers, actually, dig and do the work. And if you still don't understand, or then you need me help to kind of, for you to comprehend this more, then, come in and we'll talk through the issues. He's like, but, to kind of be self-reliant on that respect too. So have mentors, not be afraid to, and be encouraged to go out and find the answer on your own. Sometimes it's as easy as a Westlaw search and a couple of good keywords and you get lucky. And other times, obviously, you got to do a lot more digging. But I'd say just those 2 things have definitely been kind of the best as a young attorney, kind of getting out there.
I like that. Great advice. So the last call, if you could be a rock star, which one would you be and why?
It's tough. Let's see. I mean, you probably got to go with, you know, one of the greats. I'd probably say maybe like Paul McCartney.
Ooh, why?
Well, I mean, if you just look at the career he's had, you know, from being a Beatle, you know, just living that life all the way through where he's still going today, making hits and things like that, and just the life he's had, and he's beloved. I don't think I've ever heard anyone that, you know, said I hate Paul McCartney or I don't like Paul McCartney. Yeah, you know what I mean. And my dad's always said that's what, you know, he in another life he wishes he was kind of a rock star too, just to be on the stage and see, you know, being adored and all that type of stuff with singing along, and then the whole entire arena is singing your songs too. And I feel like he's got enough sing-alongs. But, you know, I would say, you know, being a Beatle, it would be tough to beat that.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, that's great. And so one other thing on the last call, the last question is, with COVID and quarantine going on, I know you're in California right now with your brother and his family, but what other things have you picked up during quarantine and during COVID? Some hobbies. I know mine are like gardening and biking and working out now more. What are yours?
Yeah, I've been doing big walk. I've made the best of COVID. I'm down like 10 or 15 pounds. I just started eating. You stop eating much, and you have more time during the day to get on, do some cardio and things like that. Where, you know, I've been doing that. Surfing is always a good time. You know, paddleboarding, surfing, and I've actually started cooking myself as well. You know, I've always been big on Uber Eats and eating out, and all of a sudden you start doing that. You know, it's fun, and you're eating a lot healthier when you know exactly what's going into it. So cooking.
What's your favorite dish? What's your favorite dish to make?
I made spaghetti sauce for the first time, and it was very, very good.
Oh, nice.
A lot of work goes into it, but it was pretty awesome.
That's really cool. Thank you so much, Dan. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end this? I really appreciate your time and can't thank you enough. It was very awesome getting to know you and everything too, as well.
I'll just leave it with, if you've been injured in an accident, hurt on the job, or a victim of medical malpractice, call Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
I love it. Bye, everyone. Beyond the bar, everybody. Goodbye.